Hey, welcome once again to B&B Hockey Talk. I'm Aaron Bloxel with my co-host, Mr. Matthew Balzer. Friday. People are excited about that, but man, we've got a jam-packed show filled for you. First, Gino Odjick interview on local Vancouver radio. Man, I love that guy as a kid. Just an absolute legend. When asked about what he would have done when Matheson did what he did to Elias Pettersson, he said he would have went after him. He would have pounded him down to the ground so hard so the rest of the league saw that if they touched Pettersson, they would have had to face him. I don't know. I'm kind of old school. I like, some of the newer school, but I like those comments from a guy like Gino who would absolutely just stand up for a teammate. And saying in that same sentence before we get to Matt, Coach John Tortorella from Columbus Blue Jackets came out and said the players today are too soft and he hates it when they talk on the ice because they're buddies or whatever, and he said he misses the old days when, you hated the other team and you could have a beer with your buddies after the game. And I got a couple of examples of that, but what do you think of those comments, Matt?
Yeah, so first off, before I get going, I apologize for my voice. I'm still dealing with a cold, but yeah, getting into all that. Yeah, with Gino, it's like he was a little bit before my time, but I know of the legend of Gino Odjick. And first off, I'd actually like to. I heard his health is getting a lot better too, so that's good to hear. But yeah, I absolutely agree with his comments. It's just like you wish for some response to this, like immediately. It's just like I know the Canucks don't really have like a whole lot of guys that can go beat the crap out of somebody, but guys like Goodbranson or heck, even Bo Horvat when he fought that guy in the Boston game. We got guys that could have stepped up and still won the game. Like when the Canucks played Winnipeg, when Edler sent Perreault into the boards a little awkwardly, even though I thought Perreault sold it a little bit. Tyler Myers stepped in immediately, and look at that, the Jets still won the game. So it's like it doesn't really matter.
Gino Odjick's point was, hey, if we leave him alone, we're going to score in the power play. But he said if you don't do something about that soon enough, you won't have any players left to score goals on the power play.
Mm-hmm. Like that. And then getting into the Tortorella comments with all the not enough hate between teams. Like I know it's a little bit different from like back in the 80s or something. Like you don't have the same social media and all the camps or whatever where guys can get together as it is now. That and I still think the hate's there. I think in the regular season it isn't as much. But once when the playoffs begins and you get all those rivalries, between Columbus and Pittsburgh, I don't know what Torts is talking about the last couple of years when Columbus and Pittsburgh have gone at it. It's been an there's scrums after every whistle for the most part, the Dubinsky and Crosby line matchup where they kept going at each other. So I know it's not as big as the 70s or 80s, but it's nothing's going to be like that now. But even in the Canucks game, I think there was a bit Antoine Roussel just grabbed Keller's head or whatever and threw him to the ice. So it's still there, but I think with teams knowing a lot of guys from around the league now, it's a lot more different.
Well, and I agree with him that that kind of stuff I don't like to see in a game either, and it's not from an old school mentality. It's more of a professional mentality. You're a professional. Put that friendship aside until after the game, right? You don't have to hate the person, but what he was referring to is more, there's an Evander Kane mic'd up on YouTube that you can watch where, he's buddy with some of his old teammates before the faceoffs. He's Tortorella said it's a hug fest out there with guys, hey, how's it going kind of thing during the game. I think he's right to one sense. Put that stuff aside until after the game and mean business during the game. And I'll use two examples of it. I know on the show earlier this week, or it was late last week when the Canucks played the Jets, and Nikolai Ehlers tapped Anders Nelson on the pad. I mean, back in the day, Nelson would have been punched in the face for doing something like that, because right after they literally scored on Nielsen, and it seemed to have him. I don't know if that just loosened him up or relaxed him or what, but all of a sudden the Jets scored and the game changed. It happened last night as well in the Canucks game. Eric Goodbranson accidentally, Clayton Keller turns into him. Looked like a headshot, but Goodbranson wasn't even moving. Early in the third period, Goodbranson, you could see him, he tapped him on the pads and said, "Hey, I'm sorry. I didn't mean, it was an accident. It wasn't like I went out of my way to hit you." And literally the same shift, Clayton Keller goes down the ice and scores a goal. So I wonder, if you put that stuff aside, say you're sorry after the game, when somebody has a chance to watch the replay. I think there is some psychology to that. And it really frustrates me when I see players skating around on the ice talking to each other in that matter. Now, I don't mind it when they're talking to each other like Roussel was the other night, because it gets people fired up, right? Lawson Krause, Goodbranson went after him because of big body and how he was going after Roussel and stuff. Roussel was doing a great job intimidating and yapping and getting under the skin of guys like Clayton Keller. That's my take on it. You got anything else on that before we move on?
No, I think that about sums it up. It's just like it is a new age or whatever, where even the tough guys now aren't really much in the league, because like outside for the Canucks, the only time I can really remember somebody really going out of their way was actually Goodbranson when the Canucks were in Toronto, and you had the Kadri hit on Daniel Sedin. And then Martin going after Troy Stetcher, and then you had the comments of Goodbranson saying, "I'm gonna effing kill that guy," sort of thing after in the dressing room. But yeah, it's just it's a new day and age here. But yeah, we'll move on with some of the other news from the past.
Well, one final word on that. I mean, Gino said in his interview that there's only two tough guys left in the NHL that come to mind: Ryan Reeves and Cody McLeod. And he said in this day and age, if he was playing, it would be a field day because teams wouldn't be able to stop him gooning up the other team's best players based on what he used to do. But he also said he'd have a hard time catching up to them because the game has changed. Players used to go for beers after the game, and now, they're just so in shape. They're very careful what they put into their body. It is a different game. I get that, but I agree with Tortorella. Keep that stuff until after the game. Be serious enough. Be professional enough during the game so you're not smiling around out there and being buddy-buddy with the other team, right? All right, let's move on. Vancouver Canucks. We're going to talk about them, and the only reason we're going to start with them is because they're first in the Pacific Division. But, man, Gary Bettman must be absolutely loving the NHL right now, with how much parity there is. A lot of teams out there are winning a game, losing a game, winning a game, losing a game. And there's so many people right now in the pack in every single division out there. And mentioning Gary Bettman reminds me of one thing I wanted to mention on the show today as well. John Ziegler Jr. passed away today at the age of 84. NHL commissioner from 1979 to 1993, I believe. And Gary Bettman, of course, succeeded him. Gary Bettman said that he was a great mentor and really helped him a lot through the transition when he first started. But John Ziegler helped get the WHA into the NHL. Teams like the Edmonton Oilers, Winnipeg Jets, the Hartford Whalers, and, of course, the Quebec Nordique through just before the 80s started. European players got to start coming over during his reign. I thought he did a lot for the game. He grew the league from 18 to 24 teams, and just a great guy. And it will be, if not already, I'm pretty sure he's already in the Hockey Hall of Fame. Thoughts on what I just said about parity and on John Ziegler Jr. before we get into the Canucks?
Yeah, so the parity basically in every division, it's just there's only a few points separating each team in each division. We got in the Pacific, Vancouver's leading with 12 points, but we got Edmonton, who's a couple spots out of a wild card spot, with 9 points. So there's only 3 points separating those few teams. And the Central Division, which I think is the best division in the NHL right now. It's like we got Nashville leading with 16 points, and Minnesota, who's in that second wild card spot, is at 12 points. So you got 5 teams in the Central between 12 to 16 points. And then you go out east in the Metropolitan Division and in the Atlantic. It's basically only a couple points there as well. So I think that's exactly where Bettman wants it, where any team can make the playoffs at any time. And then there's some teams starting to heat up that had poor starts, and some teams that had hot starts that are starting to cool down, like the Arizona Coyotes have now won like 3 of their past 4 games, and Anaheim's now lost 3 or 4 straight games.
And so the Buffalo Sabres, of course, beating Montreal for a 3-game win streak as well, where Montreal looked unbelievable. All of a sudden now, you look at a team like Buffalo, they're, I believe, 6-4, or 6-5 right now. And so there is a lot of parity out there. It's pretty crazy. So John Ziegler Jr., I know he's before your time, but of course, there's a lot of fingerprints still all over the NHL from when he was running it. I'll always remember the Smythe division, the Adams, the Patrick, and the Lester, right? So who could forget the Snorris division?
I don't have too many comments on it, just because it was before my time. My time's been the great Gary Bettman, of course, right now. But it's as you brought up, many good things bringing in and expanding the league across North America, which was great.
All right, let's get into the Canucks then. They have an absolute injury-filled game against the Las Vegas Golden Knights on Wednesday night. They look great still. They end up pulling a win off in a shootout. Then they have a dog of a game last night against Arizona, although they were still in the game, 1-1, partway through the third before the wheels fell off there. With all those injuries, I mean, what other team out there has their top 6 players all out of the lineup, other than Horvat, of course?
I know, yeah. There's not many. Like, I think the closest would be like the Anaheim Ducks with Corey Perry and Jacob Silverberg, both out with injury right now. But yeah, with all the star players the Canucks are missing, like Besser, Pedersen, Berchi, Edler, Tanev, Beagle. The list is very, very great. It's just like, it's basically as soon as that tweet came out that's saying the Canucks were at full health for the first time in a long time, then the Pedersen injury happened, and then on and on after that. But at least it looks like Pedersen and Besser could both be in the lineup tomorrow, hopefully. Like, Pedersen's been cleared for contact, even leading up to the Arizona game. But I think the Canucks just wanted to hold him out just for precautionary reasons. And I think Besser's being day-to-day. I think he should be good to go Saturday. And Tanev, no update on him yet, but it is supposed to only be a bruised hip, and he's day-to-day. And then I think tomorrow we'll find out the extent of Alex Edler's injury, but it's been reported to either be a high ankle sprain or a sprained knee.
Well, the Pacific Division, like we mentioned, is tight in points. A couple wins in a row will put teams from 5th to 1st or vice versa. But the Los Angeles Kings, 5 losses in a row now, and they are sitting at 2-7-1 to start the season. Who saw this coming?
I know, yeah, just absolutely crazy. Like, Jonathan Quick in 4 games has a save percentage of .845 and goals against average of 4.55 per game. So just absolutely crazy. But their big guns have really been quiet. Kopitar only has 3 goals in 9 games to start this season. Kovalchuk only 2 goals, 5 points. And their leading scorer right now is Alex Iafallo with 7 points. So when Alex Iafallo is your leading point getter, you know your team's in trouble. Just there. And their special teams continue to dog them. I know they lost 4-1 to Minnesota last night, but 2 of the goals were empty netters, so it was actually a lot closer game than that. Also coming out of that, I think Kyle Clifford got fined for a knee-on-knee hit on Jordan Greenway. He got fined the max amount of a little over $4,300. That hit was pretty dirty, and that could have caused for a suspension.
We talked about the best division in the league, and that is the Central Division. Nashville Predators 8-2, Colorado and Chicago both 6-2-2, Winnipeg at 6-3-1, and even Minnesota at 5-2-2. There's 5 absolutely great starts by all means for all those teams there. Which one surprises you the most?
Well, the Chicago Blackhawks for sure at 6-2-2. I think getting Corey Crawford back has been a huge help. Even I know he had a rough first start, but now he's won 3 straight games, and he has a save percentage of over 94. Also, some hot starts by Patrick Kane and Alex DeBrincat have really helped this team. Kane has 9 goals, and DeBrincat has 8 goals, and Jonathan Toews has really had a resurgence this year. But also they've been getting a lot of contributions from their younger rookie players. I think guys like Dominic Cahoon, if I remember that correctly, and Henry Yokoharu on their defense have really stepped up so far this year. I think they still need to get a few more contributions from guys like Brandon Saad and Nick Schmaltz. But overall, I think they've been the biggest surprise. But I think if as long as Corey Crawford is healthy and in net, I think Chicago has a chance in every game.
Let's jump to the Atlantic Division now. Very tight again at that top with the top 5 teams. Toronto 7-3, Boston 6-2-2. Tampa's only played 8 games. They're 6-1-1. Hard to believe that one loss was to the Vancouver Canucks. Montreal Canadiens are 5-2-2. Buffalo at 6-4, only 2 points between Toronto and Buffalo, 14 down to 12 points. Of those teams, would Buffalo or Montreal be your surprise there?
I think Buffalo would be the biggest surprise, though you could go either way between Montreal and Buffalo. But just with the way Buffalo has played over the past few years, which has just been absolute garbage, but they're finally getting good goaltending between Carter Hutton and Linus Ullmark. Ullmark, I'm actually surprised he hasn't gone into a couple more starts because he's only played 2 games, but he's only allowed 1 goal in those 2 games. But Carter Hutton, who they brought over from St. Louis, which I think was going to be a big question mark if he could keep up his great play from playing in St. Louis the past few years, has had a really good start. And then having guys like Jack Eichel healthy, Kyle Okposo healthy to start this year has been huge. And Jeff Skinner, who leads the team in points with 10, has had a really good fit on that top line.
For me, Montreal and Buffalo are both surprises, but Montreal more so. I thought they would really rely heavily on Carey Price, and it hasn't seemed like they've had to do that so far. And they've got off to a great start. I'll be curious to see if they can continue that over the next 10, 20 games or so, and through until Shea Weber comes back. Metropolitan Division, it's my favorite division just because all the teams are so close there. Pittsburgh Penguins are starting to they're in first now. I mean, Carolina's cooled off. New Jersey still really hasn't played a lot of games. Pittsburgh's basically lost once and lost twice in overtime. One of those, of course, was to the Canucks as well. Interesting stat, by the way, if you're a Canucks fan, in their first, I believe their first 10 games of the season, they played the top 6 teams from last year in the NHL standings, including Tampa, Pittsburgh, and Vegas, and Winnipeg, of course. But anyways, Pittsburgh absolutely crushes Calgary last night, 9-1. They beat Edmonton just before that, 3-2 in overtime. And we talked about the insane goal by Sidney Crosby. I think Pittsburgh's starting to separate themselves from this pack. What do you like in this division, and what do you want to comment on?
Yeah, so especially the Pittsburgh Penguins, like the past couple games, I think they've really found the play that they've wanted to get to. I think Matt Murray, since coming back from injury, has really started to find his game. which has been huge because I think to start the season he was not good whatsoever. But like even though Pittsburgh won 9-1 last night, Murray made 38 saves on Calgary, so it wasn't like it was just some defensive lapse or whatever. But the big guns especially have come out to play. Malkin's on a 6-game point streak where he has 12 points in that time. Chris Letang has been huge. He has 11 points to start this season. And Crosby, who finally got that first goal out of the way in Edmonton, is up to 3 goals and 10 points now. And you can't forget Phil Kessel.
Kessel's had a great start.
Yeah, who has 6 goals and 12 points to start this year. So their big guns are really showing up. And I think their defense is still a bit of a question mark at times. But with Murray and the big guys rounding into form, they're really starting to separate themselves. Also, the Washington Capitals. It'll be interesting to see where they go. They've had a bit of a slow start, losing in Edmonton last night. But I think the big thing is John Carlson continues to perform. He has 14 points to start the season after getting that huge contract where he's getting paid $8 million. And I think he really wants to show that he's earned that contract, and that last year just wasn't a one-off for him offensively. But they've had a bit of a shaky start. I think Volpe's save percentage is below 900 right now. But we'll see with the new coach how long it takes for the new systems to lock into place.
Well, that division has played the least amount of games. Most teams have played 10 or more games, whereas New Jersey's only played 7 games, and the majority of them have only played 8 or 9. So I see a lot of games coming up for those teams in the Metropolitan Division in the future. Final word on today's show before we wrap it up.
Yeah, so let's see here what we have. Matt Duchene is making his return to Colorado tonight. So it'll be interesting to see the fan response there. I would actually maybe be expecting some boo birds possibly going in there. Pekka Rinne could be back in net tomorrow for the Nashville Predators, and Mikko Koskinen makes his debut for the Edmonton Oilers in that game as well. So and some other notes, guys coming back from injury. Torrey Krug could be back for Boston, along with Mike Green tonight for Detroit. But yeah, Canucks are facing the Pittsburgh Penguins tomorrow. Hopefully Pettersson and Besser will both be back in the lineup, especially Besser. We need him to we need that luck that he has against the Penguins tomorrow night. But yeah, it'll be a busy schedule tomorrow. But yeah, enjoy the games, guys.
Well, Besser, of course, what Matt referring to is 6 goals now in 3 games against Pittsburgh, and Matt Murray called him lucky. Again, remember to like and share and comment on your favorite team on our post. Let your friends know about us. Remember to also subscribe on YouTube or follow us on Facebook. On Facebook, of course, we post a lot of the highlights, a lot of the goals and saves from around the league. Thank you so much for joining us and listening to us. Leave a comment this time. Just let us know you made it all the way to the end of this show. All right? Let us know you listened the whole way through. Just, even drop a number 1 down below us on the comments. Let us know who you are, where you're from. And you guys have a great weekend. Lots of hockey this weekend. Hopefully you're playing lots of hockey or at least watching lots of hockey. Thanks again for joining us. B&B Hockey Talk, Aaron and Matt. We will see you guys on Monday.